Okay, you're good to go, Mayor Jameson.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Welcome. So I'd like to call to order the Standing Committee meeting of Council, October 5th, 2020. You have before you a copy of tonight's agenda. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Councillor Willow, seconded by Councillor Chambers. Any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Item number 3, any declarations of interest? None being noted, we'll move on to announcements, awards, ceremonies, and presentations. I do have 2 declarations tonight. The first one being Fire Prevention Week 2020. So you guys get to listen to me talk for the next little bit. Whereas the town of Hay River is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting the town of Hay River. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas cooking is one of the leading causes of home fires and fatal home fires in the Northwest Territories. And whereas children under 5 face a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking than being burnt in a cooking fire. And whereas the town of Hay River resident should stay in the kitchen when cooking food on the stovetop, keep a 1 meter kid-free zone around cooking areas, and keep anything that can catch fire away from stovetops. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas the town of Hay River's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and fire safety education. And whereas the town of Hay River residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2020 Fire Prevention Week theme is Serve Up Fire Safety in the Kitchen, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Therefore, I, Candace Jameson, the Mayor of the town of Hay River, do hereby proclaim October 4th to 10th, 2020 as Fire Prevention Week, and I urge all of the people of the town of Hay River to check their kitchens for fire hazards and use safe cooking practices, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the town of Hay River's fire and protective services. And the second one, here we are. Proclamation. Whereas children are our most precious resources and should be afforded every opportunity to achieve the highest attainable standard of health, breastfeeding is a natural practice and unequaled way to provide babies with nutrition and protection from infections and chronic diseases. Exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life provides babies with everything they need to develop healthily. Mothers need the support of family, health professionals, and communities to initiate and sustain breastfeeding. Canada will be celebrating National Breastfeeding Week, October 1st to 7th, 2020. Therefore, I, on behalf of the town of Hay River, do hereby proclaim October 1st to 7th as Breastfeeding Week in Hay River, Northwest Territories, Canada, and encourage all members of the community to participate in events planned to celebrate the week. Okay, so if I can find my agenda, we'd be laughing here. Sorry, guys. Too many papers. Okay, so any announcements, awards, ceremonies, or presentations from council? Go ahead, Councillor Grunewagen.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council. may have seen the media from this past week. There was an emergency out at Buffalo Lake. Took place during KFN annual community hunt out there. But anyways, there was a rescue that took place, and I just want to basically thank and congratulate the groups that were involved in that rescue. I thought it was a really great collaboration of basically emergency services, for the Hay River area. You had RCMP, Auxiliary Coast Guard, as well as the Rangers, members from Hay River, as well as KFN that were involved in the rescue. I thought it was just a really great collaboration and worthy of making note of. So thank you to them.
Thank you, Councillor Groenewegen. Anything further from council? Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just want to thank, emergency services as well as health and social services for what they do for our community. So just do a shout out for that, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from council? Nothing noted. We'll move on to item number 5, council liaison reports. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, SAO Smith.
So your worship, I just wanted to make notice or bring notice to the public attention and councillors that our annual vigil for Chris Warden is tomorrow. So that starts at 5:30 p.m. at the community center, and participants from the public, including council, of course, are invited to attend and make that ceremony. So obviously we recognize and appreciate the work that's completed by RCMP and what we feel for what Chris Warden and the family went through several years ago now. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from council or administration? Okay, nothing noted. We'll move on to item number 5, councillor liaison reports. Anybody want to go first? Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Just a comment that now that we have the community plan signed off, I'm just wondering if administration can get a hold of Housing Corporation, because I think that's the next step to see if we can get them involved with, because they said they were going to do it. So if we can get them involved with our community plan, and so we can move forward with this, if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to count. I'll call on Councillor Willows next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Have a few updates for health and wellness. HRHSSA put out the flyer today for the vaccination clinic, which will be beginning October 26th to November 6th, and it's at the old medical center. It's actually going to begin October 19th, where they will first be going out into specific groups, such as the hospital staff, schools, and long-term care. So the public is encouraged and is required to phone to make an appointment and go with that. Because of COVID, they can only have so many people in at a time. So the sooner you call, I guess, the sooner you can get an appointment. So there'll be lots of opportunity. As I said, it's running from October 26th to November 6th. Also, the pandemic plan, I know we sent copies to council, and they are available to see on the Hay River Health and Social Services Authority website. I would encourage all members of the public that have any interest in this to review that plan. If we do get into a situation this fall where we have community spread, there's some very important information there with regard to how the Hay River Health and Social Services Authority will be involved and at what level they will be involved. So I know that the senior citizens have asked us to come in and do a presentation with them next week on the plan. So the CEO and myself will be going in and doing that. Some folks may have noticed on social media that the medical travel office is now relocating to the Hay River Health and Social Services Authority Hospital Building. That will take place in 2 weeks. So a bit of a change there for folks who may require to go into the office for medical travel. The Regional Wellness Council met and had their orientation last week. This is the first time the Regional Wellness Council has had a full complement of members, probably for a year at least. So it'll be good and exciting to get back doing the public's business. And we hope to have a public meeting by the end of this month. We have a full group, as I said, and a very diverse group. So excited to see how that works out. And finally, in terms of physicians and nurses, we are fully staffed until Christmas. We have been getting some interest from both LPNs and people seeking information, such as physicians from Alberta. So hopefully that is going to help us in our recruiting. But for the moment, we are fully staffed and will be up till Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Willows. Next. So we're good for council liaison reports. Councillor Dewey, go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship. I guess just on my end, most of what's happening with recreation right now is in the report from the director. As far as the youth side of things goes, I think that it's fair to say with all the kids being back at school, there's a lot of them. I know I've had conversations with quite a few of them that are looking forward to getting back into our rec facilities and using them again here in the short-term future.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anything to report? Councillor Chambers, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a few highlights from the last library committee meeting I attended on September 21st. So the reopening has gone smoothly so far. They haven't received many complaints, and the hopes for the next phase of reintroducing their services will include Wi-Fi tables inside the library and allowing access to patrons to the shelves so they can browse and find materials. 3 high school pages started working there again the week of September 14th, and they've all received their COVID-19 safety training. For the month of September, they recorded 8 incidents, all including intoxication. And coming up, they're just sorting out the details for their book appeal. And that's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from council? Okay. None being noted, we'll move on to item number 6, administrative inquiries, and I'll pass it over to SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. Our Director of Finance is off this week. Just a couple items for him, I guess I can update you on. We will be, he's busy preparing right now. We're preparing for upcoming Finance Committee meeting, date to be scheduled here very quickly, but will be in the next couple of weeks, which will have our Q3 some discussion on our 2021 budget schedule, and we'll have our audit management letter at that as well. I think that's all I have for you for finance. Any questions, I guess?
Any questions from council? None being noted.
Yeah, no questions on the finance front. I'll pass it to our Director of Protective Services for his update.
Thank you, Worship. A few things on the go with Protective Services right now. I'm presently updating the emergency plan, adding a little bit better section on pandemics, also updating some of the information for contacts. A bunch of those have changed over the past little while. So we're getting that all up to date and should be out for print here probably next week sometime. Also, all the sensors and stuff have arrived for our breakup equipment, so I'm assembling different mounts for them, getting them ready for the install at Paradise Valley and the Falls, which will happen probably next week. I've got Water Resources helping me with the programming of some of the data loggers. They're also purchasing the cameras for the project of updating all of our equipment, which is a great relief. We're going to have some decent cameras where we'll be able to get some video, clearer pictures, better nighttime vision, everything else. So that's a great help with them jumping on board with us to bring us up to date. Also removed the EMO radio equipment off the high rise due to developments that are happening over there. It's going to mean we don't have any duplex frequencies for the town of Hay River, but we still will have simplex and duplex out of Enterprise. That's going to have to be part of a capital investment for next year, where we need to buy a multiplexer so we can mix both the fire department radios and the EMO radios onto one antenna. But we should be okay until sometime early next year to get that fixed up. And the other thing we have going on right now is I'm presently doing fit testing for all the town employees, both recreation, public works, and also the protective services people, so that they are all properly fit tested for SCBA in case WSCC comes in to check up on us. That'll be all up to date. And that's about it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for protective services? Go ahead, Councillor Bouchard.
Yeah, obviously excited to hear about the new monitoring system and cameras and stuff. I'm just wondering, Ross, is there other stuff? I mean, we see the water's still fairly high. Are there any other measures that we're kind of reviewing, anticipating kind of high water for the winter, I'm assuming, and then the springtime? So are there other measures that we need to be investigating or looking at, I guess?
Well, right now, Public Works, the SAO and myself and Mac are looking at some programming to do some work this winter, hopefully. Apparently there's some money out there that we might be able to get from climate change. So we're working on a proposal for that. Definitely we need to do some mitigating measures around the berms and possibly a floodgate at the Oxbow. But we are definitely looking at things right now.
Any further questions from council? Thank you, Director. Back to SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. And just to that question, thanks for Ross, our Director of Protective Services, update on discussions that are occurring with MACA. Yeah, we're in engagement with them, and I'm working on an application that we'll be submitting this week under for climate change funding, which deals with erosion and activities that we're concerned about with midterm to long-term flood planning. So that has we'll also be kicking off a meeting to have discussions with multiple stakeholders there, a lot of government departments, ENR, MACA, lands, water boards, etc. It's there's a lot of groups involved with those types of activities. I'll pass it on to the Director of Public Works now, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. From the Public Works side of things, as you're aware, the boil water advisory is still on. I know Glenn sent an email out this morning to council, but I'll just touch on some of the points from that for anyone watching. We did get the water treatment plant inspected by MACA this summer. We're waiting on getting the report back from that. I did have a conversation with them this morning, and we expect that the report will be to us by the end of this week. So looking forward to getting that. It should have some advice and some recommendations for moving forward and any issues that need to be addressed with our water treatment plant. The intake inspections, now that we know where the intakes are, we will be moving ahead with the intake inspection. Just waiting to hear back from the contractor on timing, what works best and what would provide the best results in terms of whether we should do it right away here in the fall, or whether it would be better to wait until there's ice on the lake so that there's less turbidity in the water, and it would be possibly make for a better inspection. Waiting to hear back from the contractor on that, since they are the experts in that area. And then when they do come up to do the intake inspection, we will be getting both of the reservoirs cleaned, which from the inspection that they did when they were here last time, we've noted that that needs to be done. So that work will be getting done. And hopefully once we get that inspection done and get the report back from MACA, we'll know how to move forward on making improvements at the water treatment plant, so that hopefully we can address some of these long boil water advisories that we have had this year. Other than that, our public works guys are working on just the typical usual public works stuff. Some sewer issues have popped up this week, or last week anyway. Been working on road grading. We're getting prepped for our winter road work. So received our sand and our salt and mixing that together to get ready for winter road maintenance work that will need to be done. Fraser Place, the contractor there did get the final drilling work completed. So all the samples have been taken. The thermistors have been installed there. Still waiting on getting some more information from those thermistors, so they have a better idea of ground temperatures before they produce the final report on that. But it's good to hear that they have completed all the work they need to, so we should be getting a final report on that in the future here, which will lead into the design process for Fraser Place. We will also be working kind of at the same time on moving forward with the rezoning of that. Now that we have the community plan, which has it identified as residential, we'll move forward with updating the bylaw so that it matches and we have it zoned as residential. Working on getting the lots in Old Town surveyed and getting those rezoned as well. So there's a few lots there that we need to get surveyed, and they'll be rezoned as well, and then they can go up for sale. The new lift station project is continuing on. I'm sure everyone's heard the banging coming from over there. They're still working at getting the sheet piling into the ground. It's been a little tougher than they had originally anticipated, but it is getting done. So that project is moving forward, continuing on. The sheet piling did take has taken a little longer than they expected, but no major concerns in terms of timeline for the final product on that. We're still good on that. Other than that, our draft water license from the water board should be distributed out this Thursday, I believe. So once that comes out, we'll have a chance to review it, provide our final comments and recommendations and basically closing arguments before it goes to the board for a final water license. And that's everything from Public Works for this week.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councillor Willis, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to the director for the update. And I appreciate we're waiting for reports, excuse me, from MACA and waiting for reports from the contractor. I guess I'm just trying to elicit a certain sense of urgency to at least give the public some confidence that we have a plan, that we know what we're doing. We've been on a boil water advisory since spring, and I'm pretty sure that's never happened before. I don't know, I haven't been here forever, but I mean, if nothing else, I mean, the water, yes, you can boil it and drink it, but it's not very tasty. Hence the reason that many people are buying water. And, you know, it's becoming a significant financial strain on some folks, I would imagine. So it would be nice if we could have a plan B if we find, okay, so the divers can't go till we have ice. Does that mean we're on boiled water until the winter? We don't know what the shape of the intake is. So does that mean that we're possibly on boiled water all winter? I mean, these are the questions that are out there. And to date, maybe we don't have an answer, but at least we should say we don't have an answer and we won't have an answer. I'm just not sure because we're waiting for reports. So I guess that's my concern. And, I understand the difficulty in not having the access to the information you need, but nonetheless, I think we need to have some better communications around this. Thank you.
SAO Smith?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Certainly, we hear the comments that Councillor Wills has brought forward. The reality is that we do have to complete a thorough analysis, and some of those activities are difficult for the same reasons that there probably is a boil water advisory in place. So, the results of the study from ACA is a key tool that's needed to move forward with the next steps of the plan. But essentially, it's gather the information, study it, and make decisions. And those decisions, if we don't know what the future looks like for water conditions. But we know there are solutions for advancing technologies within water treatment plants, and those will be a budget decision brought forward to this council probably this year as we prepare into the budget season. Outside of that, we can certainly send some communication to the public, recognizing that this is only one venue for that update to occur. But we're hopeful to get a lot more direction here within the next week or so as we review the water treatment plant study.
Thank you.
And maybe I'll just add as well that there is a water advisory in place right now. It's not a boil water order. That would be the next step. That does indicate that there are bacteria and other levels that have worsened the water conditions. So, I guess we can put some realize that if things do get worse, because I'm sure a percentage of users are continuing to consume water as they traditionally have. Not that we recommend to do so, but just note that there is other steps in the process for protecting the safety of the public.
Thank you. Anything further from council? Nothing noted. Back to SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. I'll pass the floor to the Director of Recreation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Operationally, there hasn't been much change, though we are still preparing for gradual reopening of the community center. As of right now, we still have the walking track being open Monday to Friday, as is the customer service desk. Our concession contractor continues to operate out of the community hall. We continue to have after-school programming and fitness classes in the multipurpose room and on the curling club ice surface. And the rental rooms are available and receiving requests for booking on a regular basis. As far as further reopening, we've received letters from the Office of the Chief Public Health Officer confirming that we can start operations on the skating ice surface. And those letters have been communicated to our regular user groups, and they've confirmed that they can operate in a fairly normal manner, or a manner that shouldn't affect the ice times that they book on an annual basis. It's been a lot of work back and forth, and communications are ongoing with those user groups. There hasn't been a public communication yet confirming that the ice surface will be available as of October 13th. But I do want to make sure the internal communications and the communications with the ice user groups, and make sure that we're all on the same page before we communicate to the public. That being said, the weekly ice schedule has us with about 2 more hours rented per week, given that some user groups had to break up their numbers in order to be within the guidelines and complying with guidelines. So we will have the ice surface ready by October 13th and returning to a somewhat normal ice schedule. I've also submitted an application to vary from public health order requirements for our aquatic center. I've had conversations with the local environmental health officer. Our application is very similar to those submitted by other communities that have received approval. So we should receive approval shortly. Again, the guidelines, I'm not expecting the guidelines to affect our regular operations much. They will require patrons to change the way that they use our facilities, in the sense that appointments will be necessary to use the aquatic center. And there are some other small guidelines, but for the most part, for the use that we see on a regular basis, our operations should be fairly normal. And I expect the usage to be possibly increased because people are looking forward to getting back into the recreation center. And then once people get used to the new measures and scheduling, I'm expecting that we'll see similar usage that we've seen in the past. As far as other updates, one update to provide is that some of the work for the retaining wall repairs was done last week at Port Lanning. We had MTS driving some piles in preparation, but we cannot do the majority of the work because the water level remains too high at this point. We are planning dredging, less dredging than we did last year, but we are going to do some dredging this year, and that should be completed in the next couple weeks. We have a rec committee meeting planned for next Tuesday. I will be presenting 2021 rec rates at that meeting, seeking a recommendation from the rec committee so that I can bring that back to council for approval. Other than that, our trails crew, an update. I think I haven't updated in the work they're completing. There have been quite a few repairs to tables and benches, and when we've added some benches through the honor bench program with the beautification committee. So those are some nice repairs because some of those tables were in rough shape. There's brushing that continues to ensure that the tree line doesn't encroach on some sections of the trails. We've also installed some boardwalks in a couple of the lower sections on the Oxbow Trail sections that see a lot of water on an annual basis, and we're hoping that boardwalk can facilitate use. And some further landscaping at McMeekin Park, and the trailhead to the Scout Trail, which is by the bridge near Cranberry Crescent. That landscaping is very nice, and it increases the day use area around there. And we're hoping that people can go there and spend a bit more time with family and friends and enjoy the view of the river at both those locations. At this time, I think that summarizes my updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any questions from council? None being noted, I will thank you for all your time and hard work on getting our rec center back open. Stefan, I know it's a tough one. And for our groups that are going through the process, I know that Curling Club and minor hockey and the old timers and all that, trying to get the approval is a process, and it's a tough one, and it's not easy. It's about keeping our residents safe. So I thank everybody for all their time and effort put into this to seeing that rec center in use again. Back to SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple points from me, and one I'll just expand on some of the conversation occurring around shoreline flood risks. We have had conversations and we did actually a survey with Lakeshore Drive residents, asking them questions on how they have made out with the storms that have occurred in recent months. if they have concerns or requesting any support for the next few months as we approach winter freeze up there. So we've got a good understanding, I think, through that process of where people sit. The Lakeshore Drive residents, just the one property owner expressed concern and has indicated some flood damage to their property. But otherwise, the residents and property owners of that street have minimal concerns and no requests at this time for any type of support out there. Obviously, there's some concerns with the high water levels and freezing. We are seeing favorable drops on the river at this point with the water levels. But yeah, a few unknowns for what might lie ahead this year, as there always are. But of course, the high water levels are bringing new concerns. So we are working with various government departments, as I mentioned earlier, and including looking at funding or applying for funding to support some refurbishment work or repairs to the berm systems and potential expansions there as well. Outside of that, just a note, it's been some time since council met to update the strategic plan. I do hope to have, or will have for the next council meeting, or an update to that document that outlines the priorities for this current council over the next year. And I think that's everything from me.
Thank you, Nassau Smith. Any questions from council? Councillor Dewey, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Just the question I had was more nothing really relating to any of the comments from any of the directors on their updates tonight, but we received another email last week. Council did on from a resident on our taxi service in the community. It's something I've been hearing also from some of the businesses and a couple individuals in town lately about the unavailability of taxis at any real given point. And I'm just wondering if there is a plan to address that with administration. I understand there had been some conversations, and I know the taxi companies, like everybody else, are having a hard time right now with COVID and everything else. So I'm just wondering if there is a plan to address that, because we get into these winter months, it's going to start becoming more of an issue that we've got people having to walk around as it gets cold, and I'd hate to see that turn into something unnecessary happening. Just wondering if there is any kind of plan to try and address those issues.
Thank you. Nassau Smith.
Thank you, Worship. So as this council will probably know that, it has been a recurring problem for several years that I'm aware of, with concerns on the service levels that are being maintained by the taxi companies that are registered. So we have had some conversations in the past. There is a bylaw that governs activities and expectations there. It's actually identified. We've just mentioned at prior council meetings this month past month that we are working on a bylaw prioritization plan. So taxi bylaw is included in that, and activities in there outside of straight enforcement of a finding is actually working with the cab companies to get them in here and to have a discussion and make them part of the solution. It's one of those areas where, to me, at least, it seems like it would be rectified, I guess, through a free enterprise. But, like many companies, I think staffing and other concerns are causing some struggles for businesses. So we will be committing to moving forward to meeting with those groups and having discussions on how to move forward between all parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from council? Okay, nothing being noted. We'll move on to item number 7. 7A, Tourism and Economic Development Report for September. Looking for a motion. Counselor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I move the recommendation that the Council of the Town of River accepts the Tourism and Economic Development Report for the month of September 2020.
Thank you. Seconded by Counselor Grunehagen. Any questions to the motion? None being noted. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 7B. Oh, sorry. Agreed to take forward. We're in committee. Agree to take forward. Thank you. Item 7B, Emergency Services Monthly Report for September. Looking for a motion. Councilor or Deputy Mayor Bouchard, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I move that the Council of Town of Hay River accepts the Emergency Services Activity Report for September 2020 as presented.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Chambers. Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Dewey.
Thanks, Your Worship. Not a question, but just noting the year-to-date numbers. I think council's all aware, and most people are aware that the year-to-date numbers just about all the way across the board here are up substantially. So, just want to thank our fire department and our ambulance service for the work that they've been putting in. Some of these numbers are really high. So it's with a paid on call service, I think it's worth noting that they've done an excellent job. So just thank you to them.
Yes, definitely. Big shout out. No further comments or questions. Agreed to take forward. Great, thank you. Item 7C, Municipal Enforcement Monthly Report for September. Looking for a motion. Councilor Willis, go ahead.
I move that the Council of the Town of Hay River accepts the Municipal Enforcement Report for September 2020 as presented.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Grunehagen. Any questions? Agreed to take forward? Thank you. Item 7D, Public Works Monthly Report for September 2020. Looking for a motion. Councilor Chambers, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that the Council of the Town of Hay River accepts the Public Works Monthly Report for September 2020 as.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor or Deputy Mayor Bouchard. Any questions? Agreed to take forward? Thank you. 7E, Recreation Monthly Report for September 2020. Looking for a motion. Councilor Dewey, go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that the Council of Town of Hay River accepts the report entitled Recreation and Community Services Monthly Report for September as presented.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Willows. Any question to the motion? None being noted. Agreed to take forward? Thank you. Okay, item number 8 is in camera and we have nothing in camera. So item number 9, looking for a motion to adjourn. Councilor Willows.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you all, and I hope you enjoy your week.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone, have a happy Thanksgiving weekend. Take care.